Hello and welcome to Polytoots. In today's lesson we're going to be taking a look at creating a triplanar shader with Unity's shader graph. And I'm assuming you know what a triplanar shader is, otherwise I'm not sure why you would have clicked on the video, but for those of you that don't, it's essentially a shader that doesn't really care about the UVs of a mesh. It will just project your input textures on three sides. That's why it's called a triplanar, but it projects them from front to back, top to down, left to right, so you know it's technically 6, and it's pretty handy if you kind of want to I guess quickly kind of just texture like an entire environment without worrying about UVs and things matching up or the scales of things, because chances are, in fact not chances are, you will almost certainly be using like some sort of world space scaling, but we're getting a bit of ahead of ourselves. So I have a couple of examples here that we'll be making. One is probably the least used example, but it's just using 3 maps for each side. So I have the grass on this side, which goes through there, I have the snow and some weird pebbly things. And then next up, it's probably one of the more common uses where it's actually just 2 maps, and so you would tile everything around the sides and the front and back, but you'd probably project something else from the top, and so kind of, you know, create something like this where you can basically just go and grab, let's say, let's find some other mesh. Just quickly, I grabbed these rocks from the asset store from manufacturer K4. They seem pretty cool and it's free, so you know, check that out. But yeah, anyway, so let's try and find something a little bit more interesting. What about that dude? Okay, no, that's huge. Bring him down a bit. So if I was to just apply the same material as this guy onto this guy, bearing in mind these are uniquely unwrapped meshes with unique textures, but again, using a triplanar shader, it completely does not care about that. It will just use projections. So if I just quickly slam on this same shader, you can see that it is basically, it's mapped the same. And you may also notice that as I'm moving this, it's moving the texture as well. We will take a look at object space triplanar, which means that if I move the object, then the texture will actually move with it. It does create some issues that are, you know, with a bit of planning are avoidable. But yeah, anyway, so that's the second one we'll be looking at. And then the last one, pretty common usage. So this is not a tiling map. This is actually using the unique texture provided by these guys, or this guy, or this girl. Sorry, I don't mean to be gender specific in this day and age. Yeah, so that has a lot of sort of common uses, in that it allows you to kind of uniquely map your meshes, but also have something just, you know, projecting from the top, and you know, again, just to sort of drive the whole triplanar point home. So this is actually just using, you know, one planar, so I guess a uno planar. It doesn't matter if, you know, your meshes get rotated or not, it will always just project, in this example, the snow from the top. So pretty cool. So if you have it, you know, more upright, then you'll only get the snow coming from the top. So yeah, just a quick little intro there. I hope it's probably been like 20 minutes or something. So we're going to start hopping in, and we're going to build the first triplanar shader using all 3. It is the least commonly used, but at the same time, from a tutorial perspective, if you can build a 3-channel one, then the other 2 are pretty simple. There is some weird stuff with this one that we'll kind of cover, but yeah, we're going to build this one, so keep watching. Okay, so just starting with a wiped scene, so we don't have any shaders, they're just a default material. So just go ahead and we're going to create a PBR graph, and we'll call this one, I guess this is actually just the triplanar, so just as is, I guess. And we'll right click this and create a material, and we might as well just assign this. So we'll work on this one right now, these 2 even. So let's go ahead and open this up, and I'll try to give myself a little bit more space. See here. If you watch my previous tutorial on the vertex paint with the height map blending, then you already know a portion of this. So let's just, first of all, we'll get down some textures. So sample texture 2D, minimize that. We'll create a texture 2D here. And so for now, because I'm not sure which of these textures it will end up being, we'll just call it albedo for now. Doesn't need to be anything crazy. We're gonna rename things later on, you know, to either be like the top, the middle, or the sides. The middle? No, top, front, left, whatever. I don't know. It'll be something. Yeah, so if you didn't watch my last tutorial, it doesn't actually matter because we're going to recreate it anyway. We need to create our own UVs, because if I just put this straight into the albedo and save it out, and then just come over here, select the material, and let's find, I don't know, rock or something. I should probably find some tiling map actually. So let's go with the old trusty floor tile. So you can see, I mean, on the box obviously it works because the box is it's mapped like that, but on our rock face, it's just, you know, it's obviously using the UVs of the rock, whereas we want to kind of just use our own. We want to project the texture from an angle. So we're going to be doing that with world space. So we'll need a position node, and we will set it to world. Again, as I kind of mentioned in the introduction, we will take a look at object space, which is, you know, there, but it's, you know, it comes with a warning, so we'll cover that later. So yeah, we need to get access to the, you know, the XYZ, as it were. So we'll split this out and do something like this, and then we're going to combine basically two channels. And a handy way to kind of think of it is you have this axis here, and so we want to project from the green one for now, let's just say, and that's actually using, you know, the blue and the red. So the red and the blue. So that's, you know, if you're ever struggling to think of which texture is supposed to go where, then that can help. So we'll do a combine, and if that made no sense whatsoever, then I'm sorry. So we'll get in the red and the blue, and then all we have to do, sorry, that's the exact same mistake I said to avoid in my last tutorial. The blue goes into the green because it's confusing. So essentially we've just combined the red and the green, so into two. Don't think of these as RGBA in this context, just think of it as like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the outputs are 4, 3, 2, and not 1. So yeah, we do that, and then you can just multiply, and we'll get a vector 1, because this will be the tiling amount. Because if we were to just plug this straight in, it might work, to be fair, but if it doesn't, that's fine, but it might just be some crazy big or small tiling. Okay, I mean, that's actually it's kind of an okay tiling amount. So we can see that it works at least. We are projecting from the red and the blue, which is the X and the Z. So Z goes this way, X goes this way, and you can see like the plane that makes, which is the top down one. So pretty cool. Yeah, so we might as well get in our own tiling amount here, and I'm going to skip a bit and kind of not fully explain why I'm about to add in a divide. I do cover this in my height blended vertex painting shader tutorial. Wow, that's a sentence. So yeah, if you want to know why I'm adding in a divide and not just going straight to multiply, then just watch that. Otherwise, just take my word for it that it's kind of needed. So we'll just say tiling. If I don't take my word for it, I'll just explain it. Basically, if we just use a multiply, then the values will be way too, well, either too big or too small. So we're putting in a divide to kind of just make those numbers a bit more not so crazy. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So we're going to get a different vector 1. Sorry, this is a little bit all over the place. We're just trying to do the tiling here, so it's not crazy complicated. So this number, it might change, might not. I'll put it as 2 for now, just because it might want to be higher, might want to be smaller. I always forget. And so then this is our actual tiling amount, which we turned into a property. So I'll stick that at the top actually. So now if I just plug that into there, give this a save, and it's come out brown, probably because, like usual, I forget to give my tiling amount a default value, which is always good. So try that again. So that's saved. So now we just need to change it on the actual material. one. So there we go. Yeah, so now we actually have some tiling, which is pretty cool. So you'd have thought that we're actually like 33.33% of the way there, and that all we have to do is just get some more combine nodes in place, hook up the two relevant channels, and then add it all together. And you'd be kind of right. You'd be most of the way there. There is something else that we kind of need to do. So let's just get to that endpoint really quickly, because the rest of this, it's kind of the same. The only thing that I will just sort of mention, I mean, I'm not going to speed through, you know, you don't have to worry about that. Although if you want to speed through, I guess just skip ahead, you know, that hurts my feelings, but it's okay. But yeah, the one thing that I was just going to mention is this texture. I might be mentioning this way too early, but we're going to have, I mean, eventually 6 of these things, because we're going to have the normal maps as well. But so there's going to be 3 albedos and 3 normals, and you might want to structure them as like RGB, and I can't remember which one this is yet, so I don't know where to place it. But as we start to go through all of this now and hook everything up, we will eventually find out. So let's just kind of continue building this together. And again, it is kind of the same as what's happening here in this old stuff. All right, we're going to reuse a lot. I'm rambling on again. Let's just do it. So we've got the Z and the X. That's top down. So now let's go for, let's say, the Y and the X. You know, the green and the red, which will be this, I guess, front projection. So the red and the green, and then so this last one, it can only be one other thing, which means it's the Y and the Z, the green and the blue, which will create the side-to-side plane. So we want the green and the blue. And from here, if you wanted, you can have like separate tiling amounts for each of your texture inputs. To keep this tutorial a bit short, I'm going to reuse these properties, but I will have to make use of these divides and multiplies. We can't just use the whole chain with these other projections because we're running this combine node into the divide. So yeah, we can't exactly run other of these combines into the divide. It would break it. So also I did just notice, not that it matters too much because we are only using 2 channels, but we might as well output to only 2 channels just to keep things potentially neat and tidy. So yeah, we have 3 combines, so we're going to want 3 sets of these. But again, the properties and the vector ones, might as well keep those. You can, if you want, as I said before, just create your own tiling. So yeah, and again, just the same thing that we were doing before. And so this vector 1 is going to go into my divides, and then our property vector 1 will go into the multiplies. So yeah, might not be ideal if you're if the textures that you're actually using kind of have like massively different scales anyway, in which case you probably would want to separate it out and have different tiling amounts for each thing, which would be as easy as essentially just making a new property. And sorry, I shouldn't have copied that one. So if I make a new vector 1 and then turn that into a property, so you just call this, you know, tiling front or whichever one it would be, and then you just use that in place of the other tiling. So yeah, but we're not going to do that, just to try and make our lives a little bit easier. So we've got most of it kind of complete. We just need to copy and paste 2 more of these texture 2Ds, because we are going to be putting in some more maps. So for this one, let's rename this to say top diffuse, and then might as well just duplicate it. Oh, you can't? Wait. Oh yeah, Control D, that works. And then we'll say front diffuse, and I definitely want to get rid of that one. And then the last one will just be side. I mean, technically speaking, the front one would also be the back one, but I can never quite work out how to correctly name these things. Yeah, so we have, let's see, oh yeah, I don't need that tiling front because it's not a property that we're using. So we have the tiling amount and our 3 diffuses. So we're using the top one, And now we need to work out which one the other ones are, and I always forget. So the front is using the Y and the X, so that's the front projection, because it creates that plane. So we're looking for red and green, which is this middle one. So in theory, at least, this one has to be the front diffuse. So we'll put that there, and then which means this one is the sides. So we'll put that there. And let's make sure to hook up these mapping coordinates. So that's all fine and dandy. And if I were to just save this now, I mean, we haven't hooked anything up yet, but let's just go and add in some textures. So we have floor tile, so I'll add in a, let's see, I'll do snow for the top actually, and then I'll do floor tile for the front. Oh, that was a bit confusing. I was wondering why I wasn't showing up, but we haven't actually hooked it up yet. Well done me. And let's go with pebbles, just so a little bit different at least. So yeah, if I were to just change these, and so put this one in there and then save it, you can see now we have our front projection, and surprise surprise, if we do it with the last one, yeah, we get the sides projection. And now you might be thinking, well, that's it, you're done. But I only wish it was that simple. Unfortunately, we need a way to mask these and to display them all at the same time, because let me just show you what would happen quickly. I'll speed through and I'll just add in a bunch of ads. Yeah. Okay, so I've done that, and basically what's happened is it's adding the textures on top of each other, and to kind of drive this point home just a little bit, let's just get rid of these, so we're only looking at one again. So this is only the top projection that we're interested in, and if we look on the cube here, we can see that it is on the top, but it streaks down on the sides as well. We don't want that at all. We do not want this texture to appear on the front and the back or the left and the right. Even though it is sort of correctly projecting from the top, it also kind of projects through, and it's massively stretched, but it's still there. We need to mask it out, and the way that I've worked out how to do that, I don't know if it's correct for Shader Graph or not. I've only ever built a triplanar in Shader Forge, I believe. So yeah, everything from this point on is kind of, I'm not sure if it's the best way to do things, but it's definitely the way that I got it to work. So we're going to get a normal vector node, and we'll keep it at world space for now. And then we want to get an absolute node, and then we're going to multiply this by itself. And so basically what we've just done is generate a kind of a world projection of the XYZ coordinates. So if I were to just put that straight into the albedo and save it, you can see here that we have the green on the top, reds are on the sides, and the blue on the front and back, and it's kind of represented here, although this mesh is kind of it's all bent and contorted, so you're getting sort of representations of each. From like the more top it is, like flat here, the more green it would be, and the more front on a face is, the more blue it would be, and red the other sides, and everything would kind of be in between those blends. So we need a way to basically use this as a mask for our textures, so that we only put, let's say, the snow texture, which is the top diffuse, onto the green part only, because we don't want it to appear on the red or the blue, like at all, not even a smidgen. And the way that I've kind of worked out how to do that is, if I just get a split node here, I'll just show you as an example. So we have RGB, so I'm just going to grab the green, because that's the one at the top here, the top projecting down. I mean, there's no real reason that I'm choosing it. I could have chosen any. And you can see now that it appears white and everything else is black, which is that's great news. It means white can be yes, black can be no, and so we can just use this as our mask. And what we kind of do, the only way that I have managed to get this to work is with a blend node so far. If anyone knows how to get it working with something else, I'm more than happy to hear about that. But essentially, so the green, we know that the green is the one we want. We put the green into opacity. Basically, I'd kind of consider this to be the mask. And then this is our top diffuse, so we want this one to go into the blend. And then set it to overwrite. Again, I'm not entirely sure why. I've kind of only just recently worked this out, and it's the only thing that I can get to work, so your guess is as good as mine. So now with that saved, perhaps the snow wasn't the best example to use, but we have the texture on the top and the sides are still black, so that is great. Pretty good news. So all we have to do is just kind of complete the chain, and I was saying before about structuring these things in an RGB kind of way. Let me just try and center this up a little bit. So this one, this texture here is actually, we're using it for the green channel, so this definitely doesn't want to be at the top, so I'm just going to rejig it around a bit. In fact, rather than me moving this one, I have a strong suspicion that this one here is the red channel and this one's the blue channel. So if I were to just actually move this one up, say up to here, I'll sort this out in a second, then I think it should go RGB. I mean, this stuff, it's not important like at all, but it just helps me stay a bit sane. So yeah, let's go and get another blend. So I'll just copy and paste, that way we keep the overwrite mode that we changed. And let's see if I was right. I really hope I was right, otherwise this is just gonna be a mess. So the red channel into, not into blend, sorry about that. Red channel is the mask, so we use that as opacity. And then our sides diffuse, stick that into blend, overwrite, and for now we'll just plug this straight in just to test it, see if it works. And yep, seems to be okay. I'm pretty sure that was the red side, so yeah, X is this direction, so yep, that's all good. And so one more, and we'll grab the blue from here. Sorry, give myself a little bit more space. I always like to work where I can just make changes and immediately save it and see how it looks. I rarely ever have like a full screen shader open and I just make the shader without even seeing what things are doing. That's just, I don't know, maybe because I'm simple, but I like to just see the changes that are happening and to be able to test them quickly. But so yeah, it does make it a bit annoying sometimes. So yeah, blue channel into our mask and then into the blend. And not that we need to, because the other two proved correct, but I will just give this a quick test. So yeah, this should put it on the front. Yeah, there we go. All good. So now all we have to do is add these together. And when I say add, I do mean that quite literally. So we're going to get two adds in here. So just copy paste. And I don't think it matters which way round you do this. Whatever works for you. So add any of the two together. And then we'll just add the last one and then that previous add together, if that makes sense. And we'll stick this in, and with some luck, that should be it. Yep, okay, that seems to have worked a treat. And so if you want normal maps, and I'm assuming that you do because most people do, you basically just create this exact same thing again, but you just plug it straight into the normals. I won't go through creating that, I'll just skip to the end where that's built. But I mean, you don't have to worry about constructing any of this. Like, these are just our UVs, and so, you know, these aren't going to change. We don't need to duplicate these and do anything with them because we've already set everything up. You know, Triplanar right now is working. We don't need to make this again because this is just our masking. So all we need to do is just basically copy, well, this stuff, but we'll just use normal maps instead of these diffuse textures. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I mean, I haven't quite hooked everything up yet, but just one thing to make sure you do is, if you are just copying over this sample texture 2D or even creating your own, make sure that you set the type to normal, otherwise your normal maps won't work. But yeah, all I've done is just copy, you know, that last rows And I've created some more texture 2Ds, and I've just, you know, called them normals, and that's going to bother me actually. I'm already bothered by this because I didn't do the underscores for the diffuse, but at least now it's kind of consistent with normals and diffuse. But anyway, so now I figured I would just quickly kind of show all of this hooking up, because it might be confusing for some. For others, you know, it's fine. I'm expecting people to kind of just skip through as they kind of need to anyway. So we might as well just get something like this. So we'll kind of just center this as much as we can. And because we'd arranged this in the RGB, this makes our life a little bit easier here, because we can just go red to the top, green to the middle, and then blue to the bottom. Pretty cool. And then for the connecting points here, again, like we're going from the top, middle, and bottom, so it's just the other way around, I guess, in at the top here. Well, no, I mean, I guess it's not the other way around. I'm sure you were able to work that out. I don't need to explain it, but yeah. Put those into there. And unless I'm forgetting something, that should be it. So hit save. And of course it looks all weird because it's expecting some normal inputs. So I'm using snow for the top. So let me just grab this snow normal map. Yeah, so there we go. Works perfectly fine on the box. And seems to work here as well. So we've got the let me just move this around a bit. So we've got the snow coming from the top. We have our floor tiles projecting straight front, and then the pebbles over there. And so that's most of the work. From this point on, this tutorial should get a lot simpler. There's a couple of things that are kind of weird with this last example that I'm going to use, which is using both unique mapping and triplanar. But for now, let's just move straight on to doing an incredibly simple thing, which is just using two textures. So it will be one tiling for the sides, one tiling for the top. Let's find where our shader is. So select shader. So we're just going to duplicate this. Just call it triplanar or two triplanar. I guess technically it is still projecting from three sides, but we're only using two maps. So let's create a material from this. Kind of annoying. I might as well populate some of these, but I'm going to leave two of them out because we're going to disregard them. So let me just go and do this quickly. Should be fine. And let's put this new material on here. So yeah, at the moment it's still expecting an input for the diffuse and the normal, so it does look a bit wrong, but we're going to change it so it will only use two textures anyway. So let's just double click on this. And this one is pretty straightforward, because the only thing you have to do is, let's see, which ones were we not using? We're not using the sides, so we can get rid of the sides. Just delete that. In fact, we'll delete the properties from here. Sides diffuse, side normals, and get rid of that. And we're just using the same diffuse, the front one. And so we'll just come down again, grab the front normals, put it into here. I mean, this is the easiest way because we've already done all of the mapping for all of the sides. So all we're doing is basically just using the same diffuse texture and normal map texture for the other projection. So save this, and there we go. So now we have snow on the top and all of this around. And now's probably a good time just to quickly mention, this is world space. So, you know, you can, change these. It won't mess with let's just give it some more tiling. It won't squish any of the textures. You can kind of just apply it to whatever mesh you wanted. Let's just put that back to where it was. I will just quickly show you what will happen if you do this in object space. It kind of works, kind of doesn't. So let's just do object for the position, and we'll keep world space for our normal vector, and I'll show you why. Okay, so we just saved that, and immediately you may have seen the textures scale a bit, and there's also there is some weird stretching happening here, and this is It's not something I've really been able to solve. So if I were to rotate this box, for example, oh, I see, I've accidentally, okay, anyway. So yeah, if I were to rotate this, the snow is staying on top, which is, you know, good. But we're getting these weird sort of streaks, and this only seems to happen in object space. And if you're not sure what object space is yet, basically now you can see I can move this object around and the texture is staying still. So it has like some pretty good uses, even sort of as is. But until I work out kind of what is happening here or how to fix this stuff, I stick with world space for now. So yeah, that covers that. And so lastly, this was the example where we're going to be using a unique texture, and I have two models here that have unique UVs, and then we want to just project something from, like, always from the top, so you know it doesn't matter if it's rotated or not. So let's just quickly do that now. So yeah, let's close down this one, but we will actually duplicate it because there's no sense in doing everything all over again. So just call this top projection for now. Let's create a material and we'll put it on all of these. Okay, so it looks wonky as hell because again it's expecting inputs but there aren't any. So top projection, let's edit this one. Okay, we know that we want to do a top-down projection only, so we don't even need these other world space UVs that we've created. We're only interested in, if you remember, the Z and the X, you know, the blue and the red. So it was this, no wait, because we reordered things. Blue and the red, it's this one. There we go, it's the middle one. So the middle one is the one that we're interested in. Unless yours is not the same as mine, in which case red and blue is the one that we're interested in, because that's Z and X. And so now anything that doesn't have a connection we can just get rid of, just to clean it up a bit. We are going to keep this, it's pretty important, we will need it for the masking. We only need 2 diffuses and 2 normal maps, so it doesn't matter which ones we keep. Let's just let's get rid of the properties for now. So we have our 2, well, what will be our 2 diffuses and our 2 normal maps. And even though we will be using blends, we're just going to get rid of this stuff just to keep things nice and tidy. Okay, so from the start of the tutorial where we introduced those, that first sort of top-down world space UV projection, that's basically where we are now. So that's what this is. This, we know that we need to use this as our mask for something. And then it's just our diffuse textures. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. We'll keep those the same. Let's just rename this one to albedo, and then just normals, because these are going to be the unique texture that we're going to use. So let's just say, put that there, albedo, normals, top diffuse, top normals. Yeah, that's all fine, because these last 2 are going to be our projections. So top diffuse, put that in there. And the reason I put it into this one is because this is using world space UVs. Oops, didn't want to do that. So we know that this is the one that's going to be projecting a texture. And similarly, this one right here is going to be our normals for that. So put that in there. Which means the other 2, of course, is the albedo, and then the normal map for that. And the arrangement here, I only have it arranged like this just because that's sort of how it ended up. It doesn't really matter. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to hook in the normals just yet. I'll work only on the diffuse textures that we have here just to make sure that that's working. And so again, we're going to get that trusty blend node, and we'll set this to overwrite. And let's just blend these 2 together. And then the mask, of course, because if you remember before, it was the green face, the up arrow here. So we're going to use the green channel from this world split that we have here, and so that's our mask basically. And so if I were to just feed that straight into albedo, and we're going to have to save this and then put in some textures, but I'm pretty sure that's done at least part of it. Okay, so it worked, it's just the wrong way around. So we can either swap these around or just swap these connections around. So let's do that instead. A little bit messy with the crisscross, but oh man, does anyone remember crisscross? I don't even remember crisscross. Okay, so that's the albedo, and now I have to remember what texture this rock was using. Oh yeah, I am using the same. We'll fix that later. So yeah, we have our uniquely mapped texture and the snow on top, although in this case it would be sand. So I guess now it's probably safe to actually swap it over to snow, because pure white, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, there's that, and we can control the tiling of our projection with this. Bit hard to tell because it's just kind of white snow. So yeah, leave it at something like that for now. And everything should be working correctly. So we have this, and if I were to just rotate it, then the snow goes up there instead. Undo that. So yeah, pretty cool, pretty cool. We're nearly finished, I promise. We're just going to introduce an actual controller so that we can fade this stuff like in and out, and it's pretty easy. We just want to get the top diffuse, which is that one, and we'll introduce a loop. And we'll grab a vector 1, convert this to a property. We'll just call this top blend. And put that in there. We'll give it a default of 1, might as well, so that it does actually always appear. And now, because these connections were crisscrossed, this one probably also wants to be crisscrossed. So we'll do something like that. And then we'll feed this one, because this connection line here is going into the blend, and this is the one that we're introducing the loop to, so that now goes into the blend. And essentially, all we've done here is we've created, well, it isn't a slider yet, it is now. That will say if the value of this is at 0, then it will use this texture, which is the albedo for the unique stuff, and if it's a value of 1, then it will use the top diffuse, which is actually just being projected from world coordinates. So we can test this now. Just hit save and let's have a look. So yeah, there we go. 0, no more snow. 1, there's your snow. So yeah, basically almost there. Just need to hook up those normals, and it is basically the exact same as what we just did. We will introduce a normal strength, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, again, I think I've probably done the crisscross thing again, so do that again. And green channel is our mask. Make sure you set this to overwrite, and we'll plug this into normals now, but we won't save it just yet because we do need to introduce a lerp again, but we'll use the same property that we have from up here, because obviously if we were to fade out the diffuse texture of the snow, we also want the normals to be faded out with it. So yeah, let's take the property of this, we'll put it in the mask of our lerp, and then top normals, which is this one. So if it's 0, it's going to use the normals of the unique texture, and if it's a value of 1, meaning that, you know, we do actually have the snow there, then it will use the values of that instead. So we'll just plug, oh my god, this is a mess, but yeah, I think that one goes in there into the blend. I mean, that almost looks like I've done something wrong, but I'm pretty sure I haven't. So let's just hit save, and then I guess we need to add in the normal maps because I haven't done that yet. And there we are. I will just quickly duplicate this material. Just give this number 2. And then I think I have temple thing. So color into color. Normals into normals. And then let's put this one on here. Yeah, so there we go. Finito. I hope this this tutorial was worth it. It's probably a long one. I'm not sure how long I've been recording for, so I'm not sure how long it'll be. Hopefully I don't split it into 2 parts. That would be pretty lame. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Welcome to 2019. This is my first video of 2019, but we're a bit into it now. I hope everyone is having a great new year so far. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, but otherwise I will just see you in the next one.